day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now for today's video you will notice that there are some differences to the video. There is music in the background. Someone told me that it's just me talking, it's too boring. So I added a little bit of ambience to the tone of my video, and you will notice that there have been thumbnails added to my channel. The thumbnails are being added to the videos to just give that little bit of extra, because a lot of people have been complaining about my video quality not being up to spec. So you now have thumbnails and you have music in the background. I hope that brings up the production value for you. I really can't go much further. My channel is not a monetized channel. For all of those thinking that I have money pouring into my channel and I'm not investing it, that's not true. I've actually invested quite heavily into my channel, and I need to reach 1,000 subs before I obviously can invest anything further, because the channel will then pay for its own investment. So yes, if you are watching the video, please leave a sub. It always does help the channel. Leave a comment down below, say whether you like the video, whether you don't like the video. I don't mind. Have a little tiff with me on the comments. I enjoy that, to be honest. A little bit of arguing never ever hurts. So by all means, comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Okay, so for today's ship, obviously, you know, I'm going with the Battlecruiser Assault 2s, and that is going to be the Oracle. Now, the Oracle is another one of those ships that is really powerful. So the Oracle 2 has several major advantages over the Oracle 1. Number 1, it has an extra weapon. Number 2, it has an extra low slot. So those are two big advantages, and you might not understand why until I describe the rest of the ship. Now, unlike a lot of the other ships, it doesn't have that much of an advantage over its lower class ship. It has more defense. It isn't as much as some of the other ships. It also has more power grid and more capacitor, but not by the numbers that the other ship had. So these are a smaller boost, but they will make a bigger boost with your engineering. I have received multiple complaints on my first video with the Naga 2 about people not having the engineering to fit things onto their ship. So I'm just going to do this here right off the back for this video. Your engineering determines your limits. If you don't have the right amount of engineering, please don't blame my fitting videos for what you have purchased. Make sure that you have 5-4 at the bare minimum to extend your power grid, and 5-4 to extend your capacitor. It's not going to work for you if you had 3 in battleship engineering and expect to fit a large shield booster to your ship plus fit everything else that I said, because at that point you're going over the limit of your ship and you need to then buy rigs to counter it. And obviously you can't count a rig 1 as a rig 3. Everything that I am doing is to the maximum level rigs. I'm not going to go with the rig 1 fit because a rig 1 fit isn't efficient. It's not the best for the ship, and if I put in rig 1s, I'd have to run through calculations 3 times just to make the build, and that doesn't make sense, because then there's going to be 3 variants of a build for 3 different types of builds that come out in one video. So that will be almost 6 builds in one video. It will take me an hour to do it, and I don't have any intention of going that far. Okay, so let's go to the weapons. Now our first weapon is the lasers. So obviously we have a variant in the lasers called large. Now these large lasers, the first one I'm going to go through is the Brawler Fit. So C-type pulse lasers. Here's one thing to note: when it comes to lasers, they are extremely heavy on your power grid. Your research does reduce their weight on your power grid. So if you have researched enough of laser research, they aren't so heavy for you. My lasers are researched, so they are slightly lower. I was informed about that as well previously. I'm really sorry for that. As I said, I can't work with everybody's individual stats and where you have put your research. You have to work on your own research depending on your efficiencies and depending on what you do. I do a minimum of 5, 5, 5. So 5 in command, 5 in engineering, 5 in defense. When it comes to my weapons, it's 5 on the regular and 5 on advanced operation. So it's 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Everything else is 0 until I have more SP. Then it will go to 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, all the way to my weapons, which will go 5-4. And at 5-4, I generally stop. I only go 5-5 if it becomes my primary weapon. If I don't intend to change. If I intend to change, then I will keep it at 5-3 instead of moving it up all the way to 5-5. 5-4 is because it's a stable use and it's a weapon that I'm going to keep. Like medium missiles are always going to be with me. They are 5-5, 5-5. That is my weapon stats on medium missiles. Before the update to the ship efficiencies, I had cruisers at 5-5 for command, 5-5 for engineering, and 5-5 for defense, if I'm correct, or is it 5-4? But whichever way it was, I was heading to give them 5-5-5. And if you are branching out to battleships in T9, go full all the way till you reach expert. Expert will give you massive bonuses in your battleships. If you're doing battle cruisers, remember you are going to eventually upgrade to battleships. There's no way you can avoid hitting the highest class of ship. You're going to need it for some reason or the other. Now remember, my fittings are generally made towards PvE. Don't tell me you took it out on a PvP roam and you got blapped away by a fleet. Obviously, none of my builds can take on the entire fleet solo. If you are going to pair these ships up for a fleet run, you're going to have to alter them slightly. You can't blame me for taking one ship against 10 ships and losing. And especially against a fleet roam against battleships. I did say that this is efficient against a MOA Guardian, and that is when it's paired up with 10 other ships of its own class with Guardians deployed to help you and sustain you, and other ships deployed to sustain any close range combat. Okay, so that's all the disclaimers from the last lot of complaints that I had. So I hope that I did cover everything that went wrong with my last video. So let's get into this. At 1067 megawatts, it's going to reduce to an approximate value of 107 megawatts per laser. Now at 107 megawatts, you're going to be putting 7 on your ship. So this is 749 megawatts gone instantly. You have about a 1200 cap on your ship by default. There is an added bonus for your engineering. There is an added bonus if you're going with rigs. I'm not adding it right now. I'll add it at the later point when we have completed the build. Now, since you are going brawler, you generally won't want to overextend your power grid. So 749 is your maximum on your weapons at this point. When you count it off your power grid, that's going to knock out quite a bit of it. You're going to have 450 megawatts left for you to build the rest of your ship. Be very careful with that figure. You only have 450 megawatts, and this is for the brawlers. So let's move on to the next one, which is going to be the long range lasers. Now here's something just to note for all of you doing long range. If you are going long range, you have to invest in the engineering. The engineering makes a major difference for your foot. If you don't have the engineering, you end up losing capability with your ship. And once you do research engineering, you're going to have to change your rigs. It is the way that it goes. Obviously, if you weren't there, it's going to take you a month and a half to reach that point. It's the way that it goes. You have to live with it. Okay, so let's go to the C-type long range lasers. Now this is for the long range foot. You are going to go with 130 being the estimate when you reduce it. I'm not going with 126. The reason for that is I know that this weapon isn't as efficient for everybody, so let's go with the maximum level of 130 megawatts. When you install it onto your ship, it's times 7. That is going to take you to 910 megawatts gone. So 910 megawatts off your power grid. You do have some leeway. I am going to add the leeway of about 30 on the ship, but regardless of whatever happens, engineering plays everything with the long range. But if you don't have engineering, your long range isn't going to work. If you don't have command, it's not going to work either. So here we go with the long range, but all of it is on. You're at about 900. You only have 300 megawatts left on your ship. This is going to play a big part later when I go to the next fitting that you need for your vessel. Okay, so let's go down to the mid slots. Mid slots are a very big thing. When it comes to your drones, I have been making a mistake. I've been reading the Vesper speed and using it for the infiltrator. I only found out yesterday that Infiltrators and Vespers have variant speeds. Although the Vesper does give you a general overall output damage, it does lose efficiency when it comes to tracking ships because it has a lower orbit speed, and it also has ability to fall off because some ships can outweigh it with speed quite easily. So Infiltrators will give you that ability to catch fast ships. Vespers will give you the ability to deal constant damage if anything gets close. So for your long range foot, I would suggest you go with the Infiltrator. For your brawler foot, I will suggest you go with the Vesper. Okay, so moving on from the first one, let's now get to your electronic warfare. This is for a brawler first of all. Web of Fire is always important for a brawler. It's going to be on your ship. So you're going to have a Web of Fire, whether it's 1 or 2. That's for the brawler. The next thing on the ship is you're going to have to start looking at your alternatives. You have the opportunity to go double web and 1 scrambler. The scrambler is going to stop a ship's micro warp drive. You will not need more than 1 scrambler. You could go double web and a target painter. That's going to give you better acquisition on the small ships. So if they get too close, you instantly destroy them. Okay, moving on from this, there are multiple options when it comes to sustaining your build. You could go 1 web, 1 target painter, or 1 web, 1 disruptor, and add to it 1 group repair. And that is a group armor repair. It is for your ship. This is for the solo brawler. Obviously, when you're in a fleet, you can have logistics or armor link. It makes a big difference to your fleets. I'll explain that in the next set of videos. When I am complete with the Talos, I am going on to logistics. That will all start to explain this for this particular class of ship. So when you are using your group reps, the whole idea is to supplement your wrapping on your ship. This is purely for the brawlers. Remember, everything in this class has only actually cost you 1 megawatt a piece. If you are going brawler and you have more engineering at your disposal, you can go with the Nosferatu. This here will help you sustain longer recharge, and it is going to help you a lot when it comes to combat. So the Nosferatu is a big bonus. You can go 1 web and a Nosferatu, or double Nosferatu 1 web. It's purely up to you. Okay, moving on, let's talk about long range. You will not be using a web. You will go straight down, buy a target painter. 1 target painter is all you generally need on those big ships. If you go with 2 target painters, it's all the better for you. It gives you better acquisition, but it does affect what you can do with the rest of your foot. Now, when it comes to your Oracle, because of its ultra large capacitor, I generally don't like putting in a group capacitor to it. It isn't really as important as it is for something like the Naga, the Talos, or even a Tornado. It does make a big difference to your ship. So the primary that you're going to put on there is the target painter. Your second 2 can be any of the following, right? You can put them in any number, any order. It's purely up to you onto your ship. You can put on your ship a Web of Fire for anything that gets close. That is up to you, and it's not part of the regular foots, but I just added it on there. Group armor wrap once again, so that you can sustain extra wrapping in case you're fighting an elite ship. The next thing which you can put on your ship to help sustain longer combat, better combat, is a disruptor. A tracking disruptor for all Amarr space, a guidance disruptor for all Garista space. It will help you a lot when it comes to fighting those types of rats. And it also will help you in missions, because if you take in a tracking disruptor into almost any encounter, you will be able to short off some of the ships. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the next lot of features when it comes to the ship, and that's going to be the low slots. I'm not going to go through the rigs. I get confused with rigs all the time. They mess me up quite a bit, so please bear with me on what I'm about to do for your low slots. Now, I know a lot of people like the safety build of using shields. You can use shields on your Oracle, but remember, shield will throw off your balance for cap stability. It means everything that I said in the previous one, you wipe out, you're going to reset. Your build is purely your own. I will not be covering a shield build because it doesn't work out very well for your ship. You get less effective overall defense. You're about the same as the Naga at about 42,000, and you really lost that advantage of getting to 44,000 overall defense. It is the big advantage of the Oracle, the overwhelming amount of defense. Yes, you don't have the same advantage as the Naga when it comes to running a larger class item, but you will see why that doesn't make such a big difference. Okay, so in armor reps, you're not even going to touch large. I'm just going to show you why right now. The large armor rep has a massive power grid requirement. It's more than you can sustain no matter what you try. Even with the best research and you pulling it down, the moment you put it on, you mess up the rest of your low slot, you mess up your weapons, everything is out of whack, it's not going to work properly. So please note, you can't go large on an Oracle. I know someone told me they can go large. If you're doing that, everything goes out of whack, your ship isn't efficient, it isn't going to give you enough firepower, you sacrifice too much to just put on one module. Okay, so let's go with medium armor reps. 111 megawatts, this is going to be first for the Brawler. You're going to fit 2. You can fit 1 and a armor plate, it's not going to make that much of a difference, but it's better to go with double armor reps. It's a continuous regen to your ship, and the power requirement isn't that heavy for your particular class of repair. Unlike that of a shield rep, this is going to be more sustainable for you in combat. Unlike deploying the armor plate every once in a while, it is going to hit your cap quite badly. The Brawler does have quite a big problem if he gets nosed or neutralized. So there you go with the first thing, and that is going to be your armor reps. Doubling them up will give you almost 1,100, and if you fit in the right fittings, like I'm going to say just now, it'll give you way more than that, and this is on a quick and short period of 9 seconds, so it will beat the efficiency that you will get from running an armor plate. So the best option will be the armor rep. If you do go with the armor plate, let me just go down to, okay, yeah, this is the medium. As you can see, it is 176 megawatts. It is slightly heavier on your capacitor. You do have almost 400, but with the 2, you will knock out quite a bit of that range. They are in a similar range. You are at 220 with just 2 reps. You're slightly over that limit with this, plus you have a bigger signature radius, heavier fallback. It does help you with turning faster. I won't explain further on that, but it does give you quite a big boost, and it only lasts for 25 seconds. If you count the boost that it gives you against how much you are wrapping extra, it cancels out. It also has a massive cost to your grid of 594 gigajoules. So yes, there is a massive hit to your power grid. The next thing that you need on your ship is going to be an armor hardener. Sorry, I didn't explain something. The Brawler only has the Brawler has 2 armor reps. The long range has 1 armor rep. You then will go to your hardeners. You're going to go to an adaptive C-type, and that will be constant for both ships. I don't open them and review them. They're 1 megawatt a piece. They hardly even affect your shield, but please bear in mind that for your long range ship, this is almost a third of your grid gone completely. You have just under 190 megawatts left for you to complete the remainder of your fit. Be very careful, there's something heavy coming for your ship, and you'll see why you need the research so badly. Okay, moving on, the next thing that's required for your ships is going to be propulsion. For your Brawler, it's going to be afterburner. This does take quite a bit of your power, I will not lie. Sorry, your power grid. And look at it, it's 83 megawatts. With this hitting on, you are almost at the 300, actually you are at the 300 megawatt mark from your power grid. You did have more than 300 megawatts to start with to fall back on. You had almost 450 megawatts. It was a big advantage. You had 450 megawatts. With this, you are exactly at the 300 megawatt mark. You only have 150 left to do the rest of your fit, and you are very safe with what's coming next. So don't stress too much if you're going Brawler. Okay, for those on the long range, this is where you start to panic. You're going to need a micro warp drive. You need to keep that range up. You can't let anything fall under your guns. So let's look at what you need. 167 megawatts. I already know where you're going with this. 167 knocks out all the remainder on your power grid. You don't have anything. Yes, your standard power grid is gone. You now need to supplement your power grid with your research from engineering. If you did go with enough engineering, and that is 5.4, you will be stable. If you don't have 5.4 or 5.5, you aren't going to be stable for the rest of the fittings. Remember, you're going to have to go with power grid units to supplement anything that falls off from this point. In case you're wondering what's that figure for your actual grid that you have extra, it's over 350 if you have full engineering. If you don't have full engineering, it's about 285. So you have 285 megawatts that's going to be added to your ship, and when you knock off what you took off from the micro warp drive, you only have about 210. If you have more research, you have more capability. Remember, that's the way that it goes. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so the last thing that comes on these ships is going to be your efficiency when it comes to weapons. Both ships will use heat sinks. The Brawler is going to use a double heat sink, right, that knocks off all of the build. It is complete with this here. The long range has 3 fittings remaining, and it only has about 210 megawatts to go. You will put 1 heat sink. Remember, depending on your level of engineering, this next fitting will either kill your ship or make your ship. You go all the way down to the Eagle tracking computer. Now, yes, I do know the Eagle tracking computer is very heavy on power grid. 126 megawatts. You double this, that's 252 megawatts. Depending on your research. Remember, you have research into your lasers, it's pulling you down. You have research into your engineering, it pulls you up again on that side. You do have the leeway with research. Long range fits don't work without research. I'm giving a very clear warning when it comes to laser vessels. The Naga can run on the long range fit without the research. It's very stable, it's very small. The lasers are very big and very heavy. So at this point, you need to know that you're taking off 250 megawatts. That means that you only had 30 megawatts to give to your micro warp drive. You needed an additional 30. If you did research enough, you do have enough power grid at this point, and you are just in that safe zone. Your ship is stable with everything that's needed. The double tracking computer has extended you enough. You can hit anything. You don't have a problem. If you don't have enough research, you're going to have to use a rig for your engineering. I'm going through the engineering rigs right now for your long range fit. A power grid if you fell short on power grid. So a power grid rig to sustain your ship. The next thing that you're going to need on that is an auxiliary thruster. Auxiliary thruster is non-negotiable. You need it to be able to keep that distance. The faster you move, the better it is for you. And last but not least, you're going to need a semiconductor unit. Now, semiconductor units are always used on my builds because they increase your cap. The more cap you have, the more stable you are. Remember, you have a massive amount of cap to start with, especially if you have the research for long range. With all of that research in and the cap, you are now very stable. You can keep firing with your ship. Here's something else to note about your particular vessel. When it comes to your grid and your rigs, if you deploy something like a double semiconductor control with your auxiliary thruster, because you had enough research and you didn't need the power grid extension, you're going to be very stable. It's going to mean you can wrap in case anything jumps under your guns, and you will be able to wrap for quite an amount of time, and your drone should be able to destroy that ship before you run out of cap. Long before you run out of cap. Most of the fleet will be destroyed before that drone actually takes you down. Okay, moving on to your weapon rigs for the long range fit. Double extension on distance for your lasers. So laser extension, whatever it is, I'm not sure on the rig name. I will make a mistake if I go into the rigs. That's why I don't open the rig all the time. Double extension and 1 damage unit for the lasers. So more damage and more range. 2 range, 1 damage. The reason for this is the further back you can go, the more likely you are to crush small ships as they try to approach you. When they're approaching you, it's an easy target. You hit them and they break almost instantly. When they're orbiting you, it becomes a big problem. Okay, moving on from that point, let's go to the brawlers. The brawlers are quite different. I'm gonna go with the combat first. You're gonna go with double damage rigs for your lasers and one rig for extra repair. Now, one rig for extra repair, because you have double repairs at 1100 every time you double repair. If you increase that by any figure without hurting your power grid too much, your capacitor, it means that it's better for you. If you increase it with the rig that gives you 30% extra repair, you have 30% extra. That's not 1100 anymore, that's 1450 basically for you on each repair. That's a massive bonus to you. 1450 is going to take you a ways away from where you were. Actually, it's going to be 1430, not 1450, but that's where you are in the rough estimate. It's going to give you a big boost to your ship. Your ship is going to be able to take a lot more damage. You can heal out very quickly, and since you are a brawler with that type of efficiency, it's going to help you take on fleets a lot easier. Anything that boosts the amount of cap you can keep really helps you when you're a brawler. Now, as for your rigs in engineering, one auxiliary thruster, you're going to need the speed all the time. Your afterburner is going to be on 90% of the time, so it's always going to be important. You're going to need a semiconductor control and a capacitor control circuit. The reason for this is you want as big of a capacitor as possible on your ship, and you want to recharge as fast as possible. If you go with double semiconductor control, it's fine. You have more grid, but you aren't recharging as fast. Your low range power recovery isn't as stable as your high range power recovery. Okay, so that's everything that I had to do with the ship. I hope that you all do enjoy. Please remember to leave a like or comment on my video, hit the subscribe button if you did enjoy, and tune in next time for the next video. Goodbye.